So, how do we exactly know when we're tuning into a facet of our true nature? Because sometimes when you tune into your true nature, things can kind of get worse a bit before they get better. Or they can appear, like suffering can appear to increase just briefly, especially when you start like maybe feeling into emotions and stuff. If you're really going through one of these doorways, if you're actually tuning into a facet, there will be something in your experience that feels lighter. So even if something gets heavier, like maybe you're touching in on an emotion that you haven't allowed yourself to feel for decades, that's going to get stronger. But then if you notice carefully, there's also something that'll be getting relief. I'm finally approaching this, or I'm finally facing it. So whenever we tune into a facet of this, a good indicator would be a traveling lighter, a slight lightness. We don't need to, but sometimes, we can get crazy bliss and whatever, sudden emptiness, oh, there's nothing here, wow. But just to know you're on the right trajectory would be to just watch, is my suffering, my aggregate, my total suffering decreasing? I've also had people come to me with the situation of I'm feeling my emotions fully in an attempt to tune into that facet of my being. So I'm trying to face these traumas and stuff, but I'm getting completely sucked in and I feel like it's tearing me apart. So if that's happening, you're identifying. So there's a difference between that and that feeling of lightness that I was talking about. So if you're really approaching your emotions, or if you're really approaching a facet of yourself, you're going to feel a lightness. If you feel like a pulling in, if you feel a contraction, or as I said, your aggregate suffering increasing, pause and reconsider your route. We don't really know what facet we can tune into, especially initially. We're like, is this even a facet? And no, but I don't want to bypass. And and of course, bypass is possible. Like if you're experiencing like a lot of nerves coming up, and then you tune into the solidity of the ground that's carrying you. Some people will experience a bypass of an emotion in that moment. And I used to think, okay, bypass is wholly bad. But now I'm starting to think that bypass is just another tool that you can also use if you really need it. If you're really, truly suffering, bypass it briefly with the facet of your true nature. It's only dangerous if you go overboard with the bypass, if you bypass your entire human experience. But we've been given this tool, we've been given this ability to tune into something, like the emptiness or the fact that this is a dream. This has been given to us, and we don't need to fear a bypass and then instead sink into suffering and get identified. What you focus on, you become. Where if you over-focus on suffering, you will become the sufferer. If you over-focus on awareness, you could bypass your experience. So it's like, how do we lend our focus to things equally, so as not to bypass any part of the human experience as a whole, but still have a foot in the door of one of those facets, I would say, at all times.